Welcome back to the Gold IRA Blueprint Podcast, everybody. We are diving deep into a topic that we know many of you are thinking about these days, gold IRAs,
Absolutely.
especially with the markets being how they are. We're getting a ton of questions about this, and
Yeah,
I think people are a little spooked, frankly, about what's happening with inflation
yeah,
and wanting to make sure that their retirement savings are secure.
for sure.
So we thought it was a perfect time to take a closer look
Yeah.
at how a gold IRA could be a valuable tool, potentially, in your retirement toolkit.
You know, it's especially relevant, I think, for people who are in or near retirement,
Right.
who are looking for ways to kind of protect what they've already built
Yeah.
and maintain their buying power, throughout retirement.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
That makes sense.
So I guess before we get into the specifics, for those who maybe aren't as familiar, what exactly is a gold IRA? It's not like, stashing gold bars under your mattress, right?
No, not quite.
Yeah. A gold IRA is really just a self-directed IRA that lets you hold actual physical precious metals. So we're talking gold, silver, platinum, palladium
Got it.
as part of your retirement savings.
Okay.
So it's a little different than the traditional IRA where you're usually just limited to
Right.
stocks or bonds or mutual funds.
So instead of pieces of paper,
Exactly.
you've got the actual, you can hold it in your hand kind of.
Tangible assets. That's right.
That's pretty interesting. So how do you actually go about setting one of these things up?
Well, it's actually a pretty straightforward process.
Okay.
There's like 4 key steps. First, you want to open a self-directed IRA,
Okay.
and you want to do that with a custodian who specializes in gold IRAs.
So not just any regular IRA custodian.
Right. You need somebody who really understands
I
the
got it.
precious metals IRA space.
Okay.
Once you've got that set up, you fund the account,
Okay.
and you can do that by transferring or rolling over funds
Right.
from an existing retirement account. Maybe a 401k or traditional IRA, something like that.
Fund it? Okay, check. What's next?
Then, and this is the fun part, you get to actually buy the metals.
Okay. Yeah.
So you work with your custodian to buy
Right.
whichever precious metals you want to include in your IRA.
Uh-huh.
It could be gold bars, gold coins, silver bullion, all
Right.
kinds of things. But the key is that they have to meet IRS standards.
Oh, the IRS has some rules around this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I can't just pick any gold. It has to be a certain...
Right, there's some regulations there, yeah.
Okay.
And then finally, you can't just take the gold home and put it in your, safe deposit box.
Under the mattress.
Yeah, no, that's not going to fly. You have to store it with an IRS-approved depository.
A depository. So like a super secure vault kind of thing?
Exactly. High security facilities
Got it.
specifically designed for this.
Okay.
So that makes sure everything's safe and keeps the IRS happy with
Okay.
all the regulations and all that.
So it's a 4-step process. Open the account,
Yeah,
fund it, buy the gold, and store it safely.
that's it.
Sounds simple enough. But I've got to say, I have heard some things out there, about gold IRAs being expensive or even risky.
Right.
Can you kind of clear that up for us a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So yeah, just like any investment, there are costs involved.
Sure.
You might have setup fees, storage fees, annual maintenance fees, things like that.
Okay.
But typically, these are pretty reasonable, especially when you consider the long-term benefits that we're going to talk about.
Right.
As for the risk, well, any investment has inherent risk, right?
Sure.
But gold IRAs are regulated by the IRS.
Okay.
So you do have that layer of oversight and protection.
Okay.
And honestly, if you choose a trustworthy and well-established provider,
Right.
that really can help minimize any risk of, scams or
Got it.
shady practices.
That's really good to know. So
Yeah.
speaking of benefits, I want to get into that.
Yeah.
What are some of the key advantages, especially for folks who are, getting close to retirement or are already in retirement?
Absolutely.
I know a lot of people are, understandably worried about inflation.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, inflation is a valid concern, and it's something that a lot of people, especially retirees, are struggling with.
Yeah.
And this is one area where gold IRAs can really shine because one of the biggest benefits is that gold has historically acted as a hedge against inflation.
Okay.
So when inflation goes up, the purchasing power of the dollar goes down, right?
Right.
But gold tends to keep its value during those times.
Okay.
So it kind of acts like a safe haven.
So like an anchor.
Yeah, like a financial anchor.
Exactly.
When things are stormy, it kind of helps
Keep things
our-
stable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the value there.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes sense. I can see why that'd be really appealing for retirees who are on a fixed income.
And who are worried about, rising costs and things like that. But what about market volatility?
Mm.
We've all seen those ups and downs
Oh, yeah.
in the stock market, and, that can be nerve-wracking for anybody, but
Absolutely.
especially for retirees.
Yeah.
Does gold offer any kind of protection from that?
It does. That's actually another really key advantage of a gold IRA,
Okay.
protection against those swings in the market. You see, gold tends to be less correlated with traditional assets like stocks and bonds,
Okay.
meaning that it often moves independently of the stock market.
Okay, so it's not directly tied to those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if the market takes a dip, gold might hold steady or even go up.
Gotcha. Now, before we go any further, I want to remind everyone that if you are interested in learning more about choosing the right gold IRA company, we've put together a handy checklist for you.
Oh, that's a great resource.
It's absolutely free, and it's packed with tips to help you make the right decision. Just visit goldirablueprint.com/exclusive. All right, so let's get back to our discussion. I'm curious, we've talked about this in theory. Do you have any real-world examples of how this actually plays out?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Let me tell you about John, a retired CEO I know.
Okay.
Now, he had a pretty substantial portfolio built up over his career, mostly in stocks and bonds.
All right.
And, he was enjoying retirement, but he was getting a little nervous about the potential for the market to take a downturn.
He wanted to protect what he'd worked so hard for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a common concern,
Yeah.
especially for people who have, maybe seen their savings take a hit in the past.
Makes sense. So what did he do?
Well, he decided to diversify. He put a portion of his portfolio into a gold IRA.
Good.
He realized that gold's, history of stability could really act as a buffer if the market went down.
Smart move.
Yeah.
So what happened when the market did dip? How did his gold IRA perform?
Well, just like he thought, when the market went down, his gold investments held steady.
Okay.
They actually even went up a little in value. So that really helped to offset any losses he saw in his stock portfolio.
That's amazing.
It really minimized the impact on his overall savings.
Wow. So that's a perfect example of how gold can really be that stabilizer in
Yeah.
a portfolio and kind of, provide that sense of
Golden
security
safety net, yes.
during those times of uncertainty, huh?
Exactly.
That's really interesting. So, let's say we've got John there who's, kind of worried about the market going down. Let's consider a different scenario. Let's say we have a couple
Okay.
and they're worried about rising costs.
Yeah.
How does that play out? How can gold help with that?
Okay, well, let's meet Mary and Tom. They're in their early 60s.
Okay.
And they were really concerned about those rising costs eating into their retirement savings.
Right, because inflation's a real concern
Oh, yeah.
for people who are on a fixed income, right?
Big time.
Like a silent thief chipping away at your savings.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Mary and Tom, they're facing that. So what are they thinking about doing?
Well, they wanted to find a way to maintain their lifestyle,
Right.
be able to enjoy retirement without constantly worrying about prices going up all the time.
Sure.
And they started looking at a gold IRA as a possible solution.
Right.
So they went ahead and opened one, and they included a mix of gold and silver in their portfolio,
Sure.
Knowing that gold could potentially protect them from inflation.
Smart. And how did that work out for them? What happened over time?
Well, as inflation went up, we've been seeing
Yeah.
the value of their precious metals actually increased. So
Yeah.
that helped to counterbalance the rising cost of, well, everything.
So they were able to keep up.
Pretty much. They were able to maintain their standard of living.
Wow. So those are two really great examples of how a gold IRA can address, kind of different financial worries,
Exactly.
whether it's protecting against the market going down
Yep.
or helping to maintain your purchasing power when prices are going up.
It's all about having that diversification.
So I'm imagining someone's listening right now and thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but how do I actually choose a gold IRA provider? There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
That's a great question. Choosing the right provider is really a critical step.
Okay.
You're trusting them with a big chunk of your retirement savings, so you have to make sure you're making a good decision.
It's like choosing a financial partner.
It is. You
Yeah.
got to make sure you trust them.
Gotta vet them.
Exactly. And there's some important things to keep in mind. First of all, you want to look at their reputation and reviews.
Okay.
Think of it like checking references for a business partner.
So do your homework.
That-
Don't just jump at the first, shiny offer that you see.
Absolutely. Look for a provider that has a solid track record. See what their customers are saying.
Right.
Look for any red flags, like complaints about hidden fees or bad customer service.
Okay, so reputation, that's number one.
Yeah.
What about, should people be talking to their financial advisor about this?
Oh, for sure. A good financial advisor can be a huge help in your search. They often have experience working with different gold IRA providers and can give you personalized recommendations.
Okay, so talk to a professional, do your own research.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got reputation covered. What about, the inevitable fees? How can you make sure you're getting a fair deal? How can you avoid getting overcharged?
Transparency is key. A good provider will be completely upfront about all the costs involved. No hidden surprises.
Right, no fine print.
Exactly. You should know exactly what you're paying for. Setup fees, storage fees, annual maintenance fees, all of that. If anything seems unclear, ask questions.
It's your money, right? You have a right to know where it's going.
Exactly.
Okay, so be upfront, be clear about those fees.
Yep.
What about comparing fees between different companies? Is that a good idea?
Absolutely. You always want to shop around and compare, but remember, the lowest fee isn't always the best indicator of quality.
That's true in a lot of areas of life.
Yeah. It is. Think about the overall value they offer, the services they provide, along with those fees. It's about finding that balance between cost and quality.
It's about value. You get what you pay for, as they say.
Exactly. Now, another thing to consider is customer support.
Okay, why is that especially important when it comes to gold IRAs?
Because this is a long-term investment, you're probably going to have questions along the way. You want to know there's someone there to help you out, answer your questions, guide you through the process.
You don't want to feel like you're on your own.
Exactly. So look for a provider that offers different ways to get in touch. Phone, email, online chat, all of that.
Makes sense. So multiple ways to communicate, and also, I guess, the quality of that support.
Absolutely. Are they knowledgeable? Are they responsive? Are they patient? You want to feel confident and supported.
Right. You want someone who can explain things clearly and who's willing to take the time to help you understand.
For sure. Now let's circle back to storage for a minute. We talked about how the IRS requires you to store your gold in an approved depository. Can you talk a bit more about why that choice is so important?
Yeah, what should people be looking for there?
Okay, well, the depository is like a secure third-party custodian for your precious metals. It ensures their safety and keeps everything compliant with those IRS regulations.
So it's not just a matter of convenience, it's actually a legal requirement.
That's right. And when you're choosing a depository, safety is paramount.
So you're talking what, like armed guards, 204/7 monitoring, secure vaults, that kind of thing.
Exactly. You want multiple layers of protection. And of course, you want insurance.
You want your gold to be safe and sound, protected from theft, damage, you name it.
Absolutely. And just like with the provider, you want to look at the depository's reputation and track record. Choose one that has a long history of secure storage and a solid standing in the industry.
So do your research on the depository as well, make sure they're a trustworthy partner?
Exactly. Remember, they're playing a vital role in protecting your investment.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've covered a lot today. We've talked about the basics of gold IRAs, how to choose a provider, what to look for in a depository. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed or you just want a handy guide to help you navigate the process, remember to visit goldirablueprint.com/exclusive for that free checklist. It covers everything we've talked about today.
They're really helpful.
Now, we've been talking a lot about, the mechanics of it all, but let's step back for a minute.
Okay.
Why are so many people, especially those nearing retirement, turning to gold as part of their financial strategy? What is it about gold that makes it so appealing right now?
That's a great question, and I think there are a few things at play here. First of all, I think there's just a lot of uncertainty in the world right now.
Yeah, that's true.
We've seen volatile markets, geopolitical tensions, rising inflation, and gold, with its long history of holding its value, provides a sense of stability in uncertain times.
It's like that safe harbor in a storm. People are looking for something that can weather those economic ups and downs and protect their purchasing power.
That's it. And gold has a pretty good track record of doing just that.
Right.
It's been a store of value for centuries. It transcends national borders, currencies.
Right, it's like a universal asset.
It is.
Yeah.
It's something tangible, something real that people can hold on to when everything else seems to be in flux.
It's interesting you mentioned that tangibility, because in this world of, you know, digital assets and all these complex financial instruments,
Yeah.
there's something, I think, really reassuring about having something physical.
Absolutely.
Something you can see and touch.
I think that psychological aspect plays a big role. Gold has an intrinsic value that people just understand. It's been prized for its beauty and rarity for thousands of years.
And it's not subject to the whims of, a particular company or government. Right.
Yeah.
It's this global asset.
Exactly.
With a long, long history.
For sure.
And speaking of history, I know that gold has historically performed well during times of high inflation, right?
It has. Historically, when the purchasing power of paper money goes down, gold tends to hold its value and often even goes up. We saw this in the 1970s, for example.
Right, when inflation was really, really high.
Exactly. Gold prices went way up while the value of the dollar went down.
So for those folks who are concerned about rising prices and what that means for their savings,
Yeah.
a gold IRA could be a way to potentially, hold on to that purchasing power.
It's like a shield against inflation.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, of course, no investment is a guaranteed return.
Right.
But gold's track record suggests it can be really valuable in protecting against inflation. And it's worth noting that central banks all over the world hold gold as part of their reserves. That tells you something about its enduring value.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If central banks trust in gold, it definitely lends some credibility to its role as a safe haven asset. So I know we've covered a ton of information today, and some listeners are probably feeling a little overwhelmed. What's your final piece of advice for people who are considering a gold IRA? Or maybe they just want to learn more about how to incorporate gold into their retirement plan.
I would say approach it like any other investment decision. Do your research.
Yeah.
Carefully weigh the benefits and the risks, and then make a decision that aligns with your own financial goals and your risk tolerance.
Makes sense.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, Talk to a professional if you need to, and take your time.
That's really great advice. And of course, if you are looking for a resource to guide you through the process, visit goldirablueprint.com/exclusive for that free checklist we talked about.
It's a great starting point.
Well, this has been a really insightful dive into the world of gold IRAs. We hope you've gained a better understanding of how they work and how they might fit into your overall financial plan.
Absolutely.
Knowledge is power, as they say, especially when it comes to planning for your future.
Couldn't agree more.
Great. Well, until next time, everyone, stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you back here soon.
Sounds good. And they were really worried about, those rising costs like we've been talking about, eating into their retirement savings.
Yeah. Inflation, it's a huge concern.
Oh, yeah.
For retirees, especially folks on fixed income,
Absolutely.
Like we said, like a silent thief chipping away against your savings.
It's scary.
So Mary and Tom, what are they thinking about? What are their options?
Well, they wanted to find a way to, keep enjoying their lifestyle, keep traveling, doing the things they love without worrying about prices, every time they go to the grocery store.
Makes sense, yeah.
So they started to think about a gold IRA as a way to, potentially solve this problem.
Okay, so they're looking at gold as a possible solution.
Exactly. So they went ahead and opened a gold IRA.
Okay.
And they put a mix of gold and silver in there, with the idea that gold could act as a hedge against inflation.
Okay, smart. And how did that work out for them? What happened as time went on?
Well, as inflation started going up, like we've been seeing, the value of their precious metals, their gold and silver, also increased.
Okay.
Which helped to kind of balance out those rising costs, everything,
So they were able to kind of stay ahead of it.
Yeah, they were able to keep up with those rising prices and maintain their lifestyle.
That's amazing. So these are two really good examples, right? We've got John, who's concerned about the market taking a dip, and we've got Mary and Tom, who are worried about inflation.
Exactly. Yeah. Two common concerns for retirees.
Yeah, absolutely. And a gold IRA potentially provides solutions.
Exactly. It's all about that diversification.
For both of those. So let's say someone is listening right now and thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but how do I actually choose a company to work with? There are a lot of gold IRA providers out there.
Yeah, you're right. There are a lot of choices.
So what advice would you give someone who's trying to navigate that, trying to find the right provider?
That's a really good question. And it's important because you're trusting them with a significant amount of money.
Right.
It's your retirement savings. So
Yeah.
you want to make sure you make a good decision. It's like picking a financial partner. You want someone you trust, someone who's going to look out for your best interests.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a big decision. So what are some of the things people should be looking for? What are some of the red flags?
Okay, so first and foremost, you want to look at reputation and reviews. Do your homework.
Okay.
Don't just jump at the first offer you see, no matter how shiny it looks.
Right.
You want to look for a provider who has a proven track record, a history of satisfied customers. Check online reviews.
Okay.
Look for any red flags, like
Yeah.
complaints about hidden fees or poor customer service, that kind of thing.
So online reviews, that's a good place to start. What about, should people be talking to their financial advisor about this?
Oh, absolutely. A trusted financial advisor can be a great resource. They often have experience working with different Gold IRA providers and can give you personalized recommendations based on your situation.
Okay, so talk to a professional, get their input, do your own research, check those online reviews. Got it.
Exactly.
What about the inevitable fees that come with any kind of financial product?
Yeah.
How do you make sure you're getting a fair deal? How do you avoid getting, ripped off or overcharged?
Transparency is key.
Okay.
You want to work with a provider who's upfront about all the costs involved, no hidden surprises, right?
Yeah.
You should know exactly what you're paying for. Setup fees, storage fees, annual maintenance fees, all of it. If something seems unclear or too high, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Right. Don't be shy. It's your money. You have a right to know where it's going.
Exactly.
Okay, so look for transparency, clear communication about fees, and don't be afraid to ask questions and clarify things.
That's right.
What about comparing fees between different companies? Is that a good idea? Should you be shopping around?
Absolutely. It's always wise to shop around and compare fees from different providers.
Yep.
But remember, the lowest fee isn't always the best indicator of quality.
Yeah, you get what you pay for, right?
Exactly. You want to consider the overall value they offer, the services they provide, along with those fees. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're getting good value for your money.
So it's not just about the cheapest option, it's about the best value.
Exactly. Now, another thing to consider is customer support.
Okay. Why is that particularly important when it comes to gold IRAs?
Well, because this is a long-term investment and you're probably going to have questions along the way. You might need help with something. And you want to know that there's someone there to support you, answer your questions, guide you through the process.
You don't want to feel like you're on your own.
Exactly. So look for a provider that offers multiple ways to communicate. Phone, email, online chat, all of that. And pay attention to the quality of that support. Are they knowledgeable? Are they responsive? Are they patient? You want to feel confident and supported every step of the way.
So it's about the quality of that communication as well. Not just that they offer multiple ways to get in touch, but that the people you're talking to are actually helpful and knowledgeable.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about reputation, fees, customer support. Let's circle back to storage for a minute. We talked about how the IRS requires you to store your precious metals in an approved depository. Why is that choice so important? What should people be looking for when choosing a depository?
Well, the depository is basically a secure third-party custodian for your metals.
Okay.
They're responsible for keeping your gold and silver safe and making sure everything is compliant with those IRS regulations we talked about.
So it's not just a matter of convenience, it's actually a legal requirement.
That's right. And when you're choosing a depository, security should be your top priority. Look for multiple layers of protection, like 24/7 monitoring, armed guards, secure vaults, insurance, the whole 9 yards.
You want your gold to be Fort Knox, totally protected from theft, damage, anything.
Exactly. And just like with the provider, look at the depository's reputation and track record. Choose one that has a long history of secure storage and a good reputation within the industry. Do your research. Make sure they're a trustworthy partner, because they're playing a vital role in protecting your investment.
Okay, so don't skip on the research when it comes to the depository.
Absolutely not. This is your retirement savings we're talking about.
This has been incredibly helpful. We've really covered a lot of ground today. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed or you just want a handy guide to help you through the process, remember to visit goldirablueprint.com. Exclusive for that free checklist we mentioned. It covers everything we talked about.
It's a great resource.
So we've been talking a lot about the nuts and bolts of gold IRAs, all the details, the steps involved. But let's step back for a moment and look at the bigger picture. Why are so many people, especially those nearing retirement, turning to gold as part of their retirement strategy?
Mm.
What is it about gold that makes it so appealing right now?
That's a great question. I think there are a few reasons why gold is so popular these days. First of all, I think there's just a lot of uncertainty in the world right now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot going on.
We've seen volatile markets, geopolitical tensions, wars, rumors of wars, that kind of thing. And then there's inflation, which is really hitting a lot of people hard. And gold, with its long history of holding its value, it offers a sense of stability during times like these. It's like a safe haven,
Right.
When the storms are raging, gold is that solid ground you can stand on.
Yeah, that makes sense. People are looking for something that can hold its value when everything else seems to be so shaky.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And gold has a really good track record of doing just that. It's been a store of value for centuries. It's not tied to any particular country or
It's
currency.
kind of like a universal asset.
Exactly. It's something tangible, something real that you can hold on to, when everything else is fluctuating.
It's interesting you say that about that tangibility,
Right.
because in this world of digital assets and all these complicated financial instruments,
Right.
there's something really comforting about having something physical,
Absolutely.
something you can actually see and touch.
I think that psychological aspect of it plays a big role. Gold has an intrinsic value that people just get. It's been prized for its beauty and rarity for thousands of years.
And it's not subject to the whims of, some company or some government.
Right.
It's this global asset with a really, really long history.
It's timeless.
Yeah. Speaking of history, gold has historically performed well during times of high inflation.
Yeah. It has. When the buying power of paper money goes down, gold tends to hold its value, and a lot of times it even goes up. We saw that back in the 70s when inflation was a real problem.
Oh, yeah. Inflation was out of control back then.
Exactly. Gold prices shot way up while the value of the dollar just kept falling.
So for folks who are concerned about prices going up and what that means for their retirement savings, a gold IRA could potentially be a way to, you know, protect their buying power over the long term.
That's right. It's like an insurance policy against inflation.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Now, no investment is a sure thing, of course.
Right, of course.
But gold's track record suggests that it can be really valuable in protecting against inflation. And, central banks all over the world hold gold as part of their reserves.
Oh, that's right. I didn't think about that.
That tells you something about its enduring value.
Yeah, that's a good point. If central banks are putting their faith in gold, it definitely says something about its stability as a safe haven asset.
Exactly. They know what they're doing.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. Some of our listeners are thinking, okay, this is a lot to take in. Where do I even start?
Yeah.
What's your final piece of advice for folks who are thinking about a gold IRA, or maybe they're just looking for ways to add gold to their retirement plan? What would you tell them?
My advice would be to treat it like any other big financial decision. Do your research. Don't rush into anything.
Take your time.
Exactly. Weigh the pros and cons. Think about your own goals and your risk tolerance. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Talk to a financial advisor, someone you trust, and get their opinion.
That's really solid advice. And remember, if you're looking for some guidance, you can visit goldirablueprint.com/exclusive for that free checklist we mentioned earlier. It's a great resource to help you get started on the right foot.
It is.
Well, this has been a really great deep dive into the world of gold IRAs. Hopefully everyone listening has a better understanding of what they are and how they could potentially be a part of their retirement plan.
Yeah, and remember, the more you know, the better equipped you are to make those smart financial decisions for your future.
That's so true. Knowledge is power. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and keep those questions coming. We'll see you back here soon.